All right, sitting here in silence, but I think we're live. A little bit of a technical hiccup on our end, but yeah, hello everyone, and happy. I don't know what day of the week it is. Thursday. As always, here to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Here with Occupy Fantasy. My name's Nick Marro. I'm here with Smitty. And yeah, we got a 7 gamer on DK, 9 gamer over on FanDuel, kind of right in that sweet spot. Still waiting for some news. We already have some value opening up though. But yes, Smitty, just what's your kind of overall take on this slate coming in here today? Looks pretty decent, but yeah, still a few things we're waiting on for sure.
Yeah, overall, it seems like a pretty good slate. Still waiting on a lot of news in the later games, but there's also some good plays in the early games, so definitely some decisions to make.
Yep, and as always, I'm gonna try to go game by game. Jim, I do see your comment here. Hold on. Looks like it's up. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, Brian just signed up. Can't seem to get anything to work. If Brian doesn't reach out to you, Jim, I'll reach out to him after this stream. I don't know if he's going to be watching. I know he's more of an NFL guy, but I'll let him know you're looking for him. Then we got Heath in here saying what's up, and definitely appreciate you guys tuning in today. I know it's a long weekend for a lot of folks. May not have as many viewers as usual, but hey, the prizes are still there. They're still playing basketball, so we're going to try to capitalize on that. But yeah, let's get right into this slate, man. And there are a few games that lock right in that 7 o'clock window. Three actually of the seven on DK, three of the nine over on FanDuel. So we don't necessarily have the luxury of just kind of skipping these and waiting for the news. First, we'll go over Charlotte and Washington. For the Hornets, Trey Mann is out. Brandon Miller is questionable. That's obviously significant. Grant Williams out for the season. Nick Smith Jr. down with the G League. So this is pretty interesting. I mean, obviously, really high total game here, 228 points. Two teams that don't play great defense. Should be pretty pacey. We'll get to the Wizards in a minute, but on the Charlotte side of things, I mean, if Miller's out, Ball's going to look like one of the best plays on the slate. I think even if Miller is in, Ball knowing what he's capable of in a matchup like this, one of the better payups on the board. So it really just becomes a question of what else do we want to get to. I think if Miller is in, he's playable. But the DK price of 8,800 is kind of tough to get to. We have him for 0% ownership on DraftKings right now, which doesn't surprise me. 16 over on FanDuel. I wouldn't mind coming in over on that. But if Miller's out, not only is it going to boost Ball, but we should also see a few extra minutes, maybe a little bit extra usage for someone like Miles Bridges. The front court situation here has been interesting lately. They have gotten healthy. They do have Williams and Nick Richards available tonight. Williams has been the better play of the two. Not seeing a ton of minutes consistently. We only have him for 20 here, but he's producing at a high enough level that I do think we should kind of include him in our center exposures tonight as someone to mix in. But yeah, I want to touch on Charlotte first, and we'll talk about Washington. But Smitty, I mean, are you getting to this 20% of Ball on both sites? I don't even know if you're back on FanDuel yet. I know you're having issues with their customer service, but on DK at least, are you getting to Ball at 10K?
Yeah, I'm back, thankfully.
Nice.
It depends on the Brandon Miller for me. Currently, I'm underweight to Ball, but if Miller's out, I'll probably be around the field on him. I just think there's a lot of other good payups too. Ball's minutes aren't his minutes ceiling isn't the highest, but I'm fine getting there. Mark Williams, I think, is a pretty interesting option on DK where he's 4,900. He looks pretty good. He's drawing about 5% ownership. We only have him for 20 minutes, and his DK value is really solid. So I like getting there.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on Williams. I like that call a lot. And it really is the ownership more than anything. But yeah, we had someone recently ask, like, if a guy's not playing 20 minutes a night, should we be playing him? And the answer was really depends on the player. Mark Williams is the type of player that even though he's kind of playing limited minutes, he can do a lot, especially in a matchup like this against the Wizards, team that's pretty spotty on defense. And that might be. I don't know, kind of favorable for them and describing them as such. But yeah, Marvin Bagley is going to be out here. Brutal injury for him. Hopefully he gets better soon. Sadiq Bey still out. Bub Carrington is available. Bilal Koulibaly is available. No Kuzma, and Sar, who is now in the Rookie of the Year conversation, is available as well. So interesting here. I mean, we're probably going to see Brogdon starting alongside Poole. Whenever we get Poole against a pretty soft defense like this, I don't mind paying up for him as a way to get different. I mean, he's gone for 45 plus two of his last three games, had a massive, massive game against OKC, where I was on with Jayhawk saying, I don't like to call blowouts. This kind of feels like one. And what do you know? Washington went out there with a really thin squad, played great, kept that game close. And if they're going to do that again here, it's probably on the back of Jordan Poole. Kind of surprised he's not drawing a little bit more ownership. But with Kuzma out, I'm fine getting to Sar. I like the price on DK. Don't love it as much on FanDuel, but you do have power forward eligibility over there where you can only play one center, so he makes some sense to me. And then Koulibaly, man, I mean, coming into the season, I wasn't super high on him. He did miss last game, but he's been producing at a super high level. For whatever reason, neither site really wants to move his price. So I like Poole a lot. I think he's under owned. I like Sar. I think he's about owned where he should be. But Koulibaly, for me, kind of regardless of where he's owned, I expect he'll be a pretty big part of my night here tonight in a good matchup. But where are you at on these Wizards right now? Again, I think we want pieces of both sides of this game.
Yeah, I'm actually in line with you. That's who I like too. I like Jordan Poole in this game. It's
Mhm.
not often you get Washington in with a close spread. And Poole's minutes have been up recently. He's been playing 35, 36 minutes. We only have him for 34. So if you wanted to bump him a little for that, that's what I'm doing. And then Sar, I think he just makes lineups work on a slate where we don't have a ton of value. He's kind of a mid-range value option you could plug in at power forward on DraftKings. He just kind of makes things work.
Yeah, man, I'm totally there with you. I don't think I want to get to Joval today. I know he's coming off a massive game, but folks need to keep in mind Sar was out for that one. I will say Brogdon maybe is the last piece in is okay, but totally in line with you, man. It's really Poole more than anything, especially at that ownership. I like Koulibaly, I like Sar, but this is a good game environment. Two bad defenses, two pretty pacey teams, so definitely a spot we want to be getting some exposure. Taking a quick look at chat here. Let's see where we're at. We got a bunch of the gang in here. I already talked to you, Jim. I'll definitely make sure that message gets over to Brian. Um, yeah, Savage Styles. I already know we're about to drop gems. That's a fact, man. Barry, hey. Again, happy holidays, everyone. Great to be here the day after Christmas. Unicorn Love, another one of our beloved regulars, Mr. Torian here. I don't believe any relation to one Torian Prince, but struggling to pay up for ball SGA or slightly down to Johnson for ATL. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I think if Trae Young's out, that Johnson play is going to become even more appealing. Rozier and Pelly are in for Miami. Shouts out Power, who's always helping us out, dropping the news in chat so I don't have the 10 windows open. And then, yeah, Unicorn. I don't know if you want to answer this, Smitty. I already kind of said I don't mind Brogdon as the last piece in. But what do you think about Brogdon on FanDuel? I mean, he does have shooting guard eligibility, but the minutes are there for him, but he is one of these guys that can produce even when he's limited.
Yeah, I don't hate getting there. I think its ownership on DraftKings is a little high, but on FanDuel where he's under 10%, I'd probably take shots there.
Yep, Jose with a good question here. We'll talk about this one in a minute. Who's this Queen guy for Orlando, and is he really viable? I think he is, but we'll get there in just a minute. Is Queen for Magic Chalk now? Seems to be a popular name here. Landon with the top FanDuel cash. We'll get to that one, man. And then what's up, guys? Let's get it from Kadiri. So, yeah, for a long weekend, we got a bunch of the regulars in here. Definitely appreciate that. And I'll use that question about Queen to transition into this game between Miami and Orlando. So, opposite of the last game we talked about, this game does not have a very high total. Miami and Orlando, last I checked, 208. Obviously not great. But yeah, let's start on the Orlando side. We're getting a lot of questions about Trevelin Queen. He did slide into the starting lineup last time, played 34 minutes, got over 30 fantasy points on both sides, which is obviously something you'd love to see. Suggs is in and available. He did play that game as well, so we don't have to worry about too much in terms of usage for Queen and some of these other secondary pieces. But what matters is Banchero's still out. They don't have either Wagner brother, and Franz, obviously, the more impactful of those two in terms of minutes and usage. But no Gary Harris either. They're missing a bunch of their guys that tend to get a lot of minutes with this team, which is opening opportunity for someone like Trevelin Queen. And when I sit here and I say that he's a pretty good value play tonight, it doesn't mean I think he's some guy who's going to be a staple and a starter in the NBA for years to come. But I don't know. I think right here tonight, where his price hasn't moved, we have him for 25 minutes. I don't mind getting to him, and I'm honestly surprised that the field isn't getting to him more aggressively. I imagine as we refresh the data throughout the show, these percentages come up. But yeah, he's a guy who seems to stay involved when he is on the floor. And some of these rookies get these spot starts. They really don't do anything with them. I don't think it's Queen first or second year. I don't know, but he is a guy who does seem to, I don't know, crash the boards, handle the ball well, He's taking threes, chasing stocks. Not that he's getting them, but 5 combined steals his last 2 games. Obviously, a good thing to see, especially on FanDuel. I like Queen as value. I'm hoping this ownership holds. I don't think it will. But before we go into the rest of the magic here, what's your thoughts on Trevelyan Queen? Do you think he's good value tonight?
Yeah, with the news that we currently have, I think Queen's a pretty good play. I'm over the field right now. I think 13% is pretty low. I'm pretty well over that right now on
Yeah.
DraftKings, where we don't have a ton of cheap value, so I think he makes a lot of sense. We only have him for 26 minutes. He played 34 last start, which you can't really go off that. But he's just the type of player the Magic like. They want him to play good defense, take open shots, and that's what he's going to do. So as long as he's shooting pretty decent, I think the minutes will be there.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I like him. I think he's solid. I will say this: I've also been pretty impressed with De Silva and what he's been doing with the extra minutes lately. Similar price, similar ownership. I think if we suddenly see Queens ownership shoot up, De Silva's kind of a logical pivot. But at the same time, I think they're both pretty solid plays. And on DK, there is a $700 pricing difference, so you're probably still going to get more Queen. But those two are appealing to me as value. As far as like payups go, we can't really call them payups, but just relative to the rest of Orlando. I do like Suggs. I mean, he's kind of dominated the usage for the most part with Banchero and Wagner out 29% last time out, getting over 35% in some of these games. I mean, he hasn't been shooting the ball that well. But yeah, his price hasn't come up as a result. I think if he was shooting better, we'd see him into the mid 8K range by now. I imagine that we do see him get there unless Banchero's back soon. KCP, someone who's very reliant on his shot. He's been shooting the ball well. But again, I think he's kind of volatile. So I don't mind these guys. And I also want to throw Goga's name in there as another guy who's going to benefit. So whether he's starting or coming off the bench, his upside had been kind of capped because of Mo Wagner coming off the bench for Orlando. With Mo out, it's not creating a ton of opportunity for the rest of this front court, but it's enough that it makes Goga a little bit underpriced, in my opinion. So, looking at this slate and like seeing this game against Miami, who's a pretty good defensive team, even with guys out, and it's a really low total. I'm on a lot more Orlando than maybe I'd want to be. But yeah, I like Suggs. I like Goga. I'm fine getting to Queen and De Silva. And KCP is like a last piece in if you don't have a lot of Orlando in those lineups, makes a little bit of sense for me as well. So, pretty much all the starters here for me, man. And this is never a team I'm bullish on. Either talk me off the ledge or tell me I'm not super crazy. But where are you at on these Magic right now?
No, I'm pretty overweight on this Magic team. They just provide value when there's not a ton on this slate. The only issue is you're locking in plays early, which is the only
Mm-hmm.
issue I see. But I'm overweight on De Silva. I'm with the field on KCP. Like you said, he's just volatile. I
Yeah.
don't mind taking shots on him if you need it, but I do like Goga on FanDuel. The ownership's there, but I think he's a pretty strong play.
Yeah, man. When you can put him in as power forward, still use that center spot, he becomes even more appealing. Um, but yeah, really solid play there. And again, I'm never excited to get to Orlando, but right now, all their best players, or not all of them, but most of their really strong players are out in terms of Banchero, Franz, and then Mo does affect that. Front court rotation a lot. Over on the Miami side, I mean, Discord is a buzz right now talking about Jimmy Butler. Uh, uh, they came out and said that they weren't going to trade him. Pat Riley did. Some people speculating that maybe that's just to get some leverage back. I think Jimmy wants out. He's going to be out tonight, though, so we don't need to talk about the Heat season. We can just talk about their matchup here with Orlando. With Butler out, I mean, obviously Hero's going to be appealing. It sounds like Rozier and Pell Larson are in. They were listed as questionable. Last time I pulled the injury report, still no Josh Richardson. Nikola Jovic is available, probably coming off the bench, coming off a great game. And Drew Smith, I mean, pour one out for him. This kid had been playing really good basketball. He's out for the season, though. I think it was an Achilles or an ACL, something terrible. But yeah, what that is going to do is open up opportunity for Jaime Jaquez. It's funny that last show we talked about how Jaquez hadn't been seeing the same minutes because of Drew Smith. Now Drew Smith out for the season with Butler out suddenly becomes one of the more popular value plays on the slate. At the same time, I mean, when he is on the floor with Hero, he's not as aggressive as a starter here. We haven't seen huge games from him, but I think the minutes are there to justify his upside. But if I'm being honest, like I'd prefer him to come off the bench because that would drive his ownership down. I think he'd so see more usage with that second unit. And yeah, now Jovic is the guy coming off the bench. No one's playing it really low ownership. I think he's actually a logical pivot here if you don't want to get to too much of this Hawkes chalk. I think Hawkes is a pretty good play, but for me, I'm getting way over the field on Tyler Hero on both sites today. I probably have at least 20%. And then, yeah, I'm always fine getting to Bam with Jimmy out, but it's really Hero for me. I'm super bullish on. And honestly, it doesn't feel good to say this. I think Hawkes might be a little bit over owned on DK just because the usage has gone down when he's sharing the floor with Hero. But what's your take on this Miami rotation? I mean, Spoelstra's a guy who likes to mix things up. We could see Highsmith start. We could see Jovic start. Last I checked, though, they have Hero, Robinson, Hawkes, Highsmith, Bam as a projected lineup. That's what I'm going to expect for now. But yeah, if Hawkes is starting next to Hero again, I don't know that I want to get to 28% on DK.
Yeah, I was on him last time, and he wasn't very owned, and now he's going to be chalk. He didn't close last game. That's what killed him. But
Yeah.
he was on his way to get there. But now he's coming in as chalk. Still pretty much the same situation. So I don't know. I'm with the field right now. I don't love it, but I also don't think you should avoid him. And then you mentioned
Yeah.
Hero. I think Hero's ownership is pretty criminal, under 10%.
Right.
When Jimmy's out, he seems like a really good play.
Yeah, man. Here's the play for me. I really want to get over that. I think it's easy to do. I know we're paying up, but at the same time, he's really a different player with Butler off the floor. Rozier is available tonight. He did miss that last game. That could cut into Hawkes potentially, but again, with no Drew Smith, Hawkes is still a pretty good play. If you're playing cash games on DK, I think he's fine. But like I said, I think he's a little bit overowned in tournaments, and I actually think Rozier himself for 800 more is kind of a logical pivot. On FanDuel pushing 6K, I don't know that I could get there, but what's your thoughts on Terry, man? Because again, I kind of want the guy who's running this second unit right now, just knowing the role that Hero tends to play when he's the alpha in this offense. You might be on mute. You're good.
I don't mind getting to Terry as a pivot to Jaime. I think that's a pretty solid play.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm going to do that a little bit. Hopefully it works out. But like I said, I mean, Jaime's a good player. We like him here. It's just, I don't know. I kind of want to zig when the field zags on a player like that. But we spent a ton of time on this first game. I will get to chat, guys, but we got to keep going now. Let's get into the next one here. Actually, two games we're through, but a lot to talk about in those. Next, we got OKC taking on Indiana. Relatively close spread, but 227-point total here. I don't know that we have any huge injury news other than Alex Caruso is going to be out for the OKC Thunder. Other than that, it's Chet guys who are out for the whole season. Then over on Indiana, Miles Turner is available. He was questionable most of the day. But since we're not dealing with too much news here, I guess we can kind of go into these two teams at the same time for the sake of timing. Let me pull them both up. But yeah, so the thing this year, it's been like Halliburton at home, good play. Halliburton on the road, maybe, maybe not. He is at home here. I don't think it's crazy to get to him a little bit. At the same time, there are guards I prefer. SGA kind of under-owned compared to what we usually see from him on a slate like this, without Luca, without some of the other pay-ups. Yeah, 12% over on DK, only 4% over on FanDuel. But yeah, man, I guess overall, what's your take on this game? Are you getting to much of it? It seems like the field's getting to a lot of Jalen Williams, which I do get. I mean, his price has come down a bit, probably shouldn't have. But yeah, kind of an interesting spot. I mean, Vegas thinks it's going to be relatively competitive, pretty high total. But I don't know that anything's really just jumping off the page at me necessarily.
Yeah, it's mainly Jalen Williams for me. Pretty tight spread, good good total. Williams' role has been solid, so I like getting there. I'm going to be overweight on DraftKings, and then you mentioned SGA. I think he's one of the best pivots to LaMelo Ball, so I like getting
Yeah.
there. I'll be overweight on SGA.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't wrap my head around why he's not more popular. I mean, it's not like he hasn't shown the ceiling lately. He's gone for 60 plus in four of his last six games played. Not the worst matchup here. Again, Indiana plays some defense, but they're pretty pacey. And yeah, I mean, checks a lot of boxes. Can't wrap my head around the ownership. I do think he's a good pivot, especially if Miller's in off of LaMelo Ball. With you on Williams, I mean, if Case and Wallace starts, you can probably get to a little bit of him. Pretty inconsistent though, but if no one's going to play him, he's kind of a value piece. But any value from either of these teams for you? I mean, McConnell off the bench has been decent. His price is up a little bit though. I mean, other than that, it's kind of tough to find. I'm always fine getting to Hartenstein. He's been pretty consistent. He's probably, I don't know, the third or fourth preferred play from this game for me after SGA Williams. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I want to like more here. I just don't.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I don't mind taking some shots at Lou Dort with Caruso out. His minutes are
Mhm.
a little more stable.
Yep, yeah, I'm with you. And Dort coming off a terrible game, I think that's why no one wants to play him. But could certainly see him bouncing back here. Those few extra minutes coming from Caruso could go to him and or Case Wallace, who I mentioned. Another 1% on the play on DK is probably worth mixing in. Um, but yeah, let's keep plugging along here. We got through the 7 o'clock window. We're now into 7:30 Eastern, and we got the Chicago Bulls taking on the Atlanta Hawks. I believe this game is the highest total on the board at 243 points. A lot to like on both sides here, but we are waiting on news. On the Chicago side, Ball is out. Buzelis is questionable. Ayo and Giddy are both questionable.
They
So yeah,
they
I
all
don't know if
got ruled
this.
out.
They both got ruled out.
Matas, Io, and Giddy. They're all out.
Okay. Okay. So good timing on this. So yeah, the date is not going to catch up quite yet, but with Montas, Ayo, and Giddy out, it's Levine first and foremost, and it's Kobe White. I think they're both going to look excellent here. Again, Atlanta, not a team that plays great defense, super, super pacey environment. Um, and then, yeah, I guess obviously Vooch looks good as well. Not that he didn't already. And then, I mean, is the fourth play Patrick Williams? Like, is that who we're going to be going to as the starter here? I think he makes some sense. Again, the date is not going to account for this quite yet, but I think all the starters here are going to have some appeal. Um, is it going to be Phillips who starts or Terry? I'm trying to think. I don't love either necessarily. They are so damn cheap that you could probably justify it. Horton Tucker is probably going to see a little bit of extra run off the bench, but his minutes are as volatile as anybody's, regardless of who's out. I don't think there's a world where he starts. So for me, I want to get over the field on White and Levine if I can, probably Vooch as well. Tough to talk about this before the data catches up, but where are you at in Chicago right now?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too, waiting for the data. But like you mentioned, the main three, Levine, White, and Vooch, they're all going to look pretty solid here.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Patrick Williams? I mean, he's been working his way back from an injury, but the minutes are back now. They haven't been. He's still only playing 22 per night. I mean, he's been close to pushing value. I wish we got word that he'd get a little bit more run, but yeah, with Buzelis and these other guys out, he is someone you think would benefit.
Yeah, he's pretty cheap, so I still don't mind taking some shots. Maybe we see increased minutes.
Okay. Anything else from Chicago for now? Like, I don't know, these weird secondary plays, THT, Terry, Phillips. It's tough to get excited, I think.
Yeah, THT is the only one that really pops out, but we'll have to see kind of what the data says.
Yeah, I think Phillips or Terry are going to get the start, and whoever does, we're probably going to see them show us pretty good value in the model. Just keep it on the ownership. I mean, these are two guys who can kind of do nothing, even with minutes. But we'll wait and see. We'll probably come back to them if we have time at the end. But on the Atlanta side of things, Trey Young is questionable. I don't know if we've gotten this news yet. Still no Okongwu, Bogdanovich questionable as well. I think if Trey's in, he looks good here. I think if Trey's out, Jalen Johnson might be the best play on the slate. And I think even with Trey in, I really do like Jalen Johnson a lot here in a really favorable matchup. To me, the big fade for me tonight, and maybe it hurts me, is Clint Capella. I do not understand why he's 30% owned on DK, 28 on FanDuel. Yes, Okongwu's out, but he hasn't really been getting extra run. He played 25 minutes last game, did pretty much nothing on the floor. He has been a major, major disappointment. So for me, I want to get more DeAndre Hunter. He hasn't producing that well. Hasn't been producing that well. But Larry Nance is just the pivot. I don't get it, man. I don't think the field is really grading these two guys correctly. Yeah, you're getting Nance for 200 cheaper, probably playing the same, if not more minutes. Much better fantasy point per minute rate with the Congo out. On FanDuel, it's a little bit trickier where there's 600 difference, but I'm just not playing Capella tonight. Whether I pivot to Nance or not is to be determined. But yeah, I just haven't seen the ceiling from him. There's a ton of centers. We talked about Sar. We're going to talk about a few others in this 5K range. Like it's tough to take huge stands in the NBA. I think this is one for me. Like I'm not playing Capella tonight. Are you getting too much of him, man? I just can't wrap my head around this ownership.
Yeah, he seems overweight or overowned. I'm about half the field right now on him. Then Trey and Jalen, I think they're both good plays. I don't necessarily want to play them together, but I think they're both pretty good. And then you mentioned Nance. I do think he's a solid pivot, and he has a power forward eligibility, so I like going there.
Yep. And if Trey is out, Dyson Daniels is going to be the guy you're going to want to get to coming off back to back games over 40 fantasy points. His price really hasn't moved. It seems like the field's not getting there all that aggressively. And yeah, actually, one of those good games came with Trey in. So Daniel's probably GPP viable regardless. But if you're already getting into some Jalen Johnson, I mean, the play you're going to want to get even more of is probably Dyson Daniels if Trey is out. So we got to wait and see on that. But again, just want to reemphasize Larry Nance for me is a better play than Clint Capella at this ownership. And yeah, I know we're looking at the OF index in the model. It's 1.5 points difference. But we're pulling a lot of data from Capella and what he was doing last year before. I think Nance, same thing. I mean, these are two guys who kind of seem to be headed in opposite directions. Maybe it's a temporary thing, but I'm going to ride that trend right now if the field isn't. And then if Bogdanovich is out, Hunter probably looks a little bit better. But this game, I mean, 243-point total should not be ignored. Definitely a spot we want to get exposure to. But Trey Young is one of those bits of news that we're definitely waiting on. Anything else in this one, man, before we move on to the next?
No, I think that's it.
Nice, dude. Appreciate it. Let's take a quick look at chat here, catch up on some stuff. I'm gonna get, guys. We got 9 games to get to, so I hope I can get to everyone. Is Queen starting? I don't know if that lineup's out. I think he is. And yeah, power. Queen's minutes solidified with Gary Harris out. Yep, I like him. Brandon Miller's in, so yeah, more reason to pivot to maybe SGA if you can find the salary. Which games could be a potential blowout? I mean, Mr. Scott, just check any sports book. When the spread goes over 10 points, that's where I'd say it's potential. At the same time, this is a very, very difficult thing to project. I feel like every time we say a game could blow out, it ends up being one you want in your lineups, i.e., that OKC Washington game last week. But yeah, if you're only playing a lineup or two, that's probably an okay way to narrow things down. Amateur with the Merry Christmas, appreciate it. And then Power Kadiri in here, following up with you on that Bulls news. Here's an interesting one, and I think the next game is Houston. So yeah, we'll use this to kind of talk transition to this next game. Do you have any thoughts on Cam Whitmore right now as a pivot off the Hawkins chalk? I like the player. I just don't know that I could trust the minutes right now. I think some of those good Whitmore games came with Eason out, but with Dylan Brooks out now, maybe he is someone we could kind of take a look at.
Yeah, if Eason ends up out, I think he's still questionable. But if he ends up out, then maybe as a deep GPP play, he could go there. I don't hate it.
Yeah, and again, Easton is questionable, like you said. Dylan Brooks is out, and Brooks has been playing as many minutes as anyone. And his usage is up a little bit this year, so it does kind of create some opportunity. The big opportunity it's creating, though, is for Eamon Thompson, who should slide into the starting lineup. His price has come up a bit. I still think he's a tremendous play. He's in most of my initial builds on both sites. Again, just he does everything when he's on the floor. Really talented kid. Jalen Green going to see increased usage here. Kind of surprised his ownership isn't as high as some of these other Rockets. But yeah, Sengun, Van Fleet, Thompson, Green, Jabari Smith, all of these guys look really good to me. All of the starters here. And if Eason's in off the bench, I'm fine mixing him in. But that's going to bring us back to the Whitmore question. Like, I'm already playing 5 Rockets, not in the same lineup, but pretty aggressively over the field if I can get there. I mean, Van Fleet, I probably won't get over. But I will say, I think Sengun, Thompson, and Green, I'd want to come in over the field. And if I'm doing that, it means these guys are having big games. I'll say this: if Eason is out, Whitmore's a good pivot. If Eason is in, I'd kind of maybe pump the brakes on that a little bit. Eason has missed the last 3 games. So it's going to be kind of tough to project those rotations. I know I'm kind of saying 100 things in one sentence without breathing, but where are you at on the Rockets, man? This is one of my favorite teams on tonight's slate.
Yeah, I think Houston looks pretty good. I'm overweight on Almond, little overweight on Fred Van Vliet, and about with the field on Sengun. But
Nice.
overall, I think they look good. And then I like Misi on the other side as well, and CJ to run it back. So I think this
Nice.
game's pretty appealing overall.
Yeah, man, I'll use that to kind of transition to the opposite side here. I mean, Misi's been really good. Had a huge game against Joker the other night where he was in one of my main lineups, really helped save my night. But yeah, on the Pelican side, still no Alvarado. Javante Green is questionable, still no Brandon Ingram. Trey Murphy is questionable. Zion is out. But yeah, if Murphy's in, I mean, we've seen with Ingram and Zion out, he's a guy you're going to want to get to pretty aggressively. But if he's out, I mean, McCollum and Murray are the guys who are going to benefit the most. I think they both look really solid here. You mentioned Mixie, um, and did you say McCollum you were on or Murray? Because I think I
Uh,
like both. Yeah,
yeah, McCollum mainly for his price on DraftKings, but I'm always fine getting to DeJounte as well.
Yeah, Murray had a massive game against Denver last time out. He's been playing really good basketball. Jordan Hawkins off the bench too. I think better if Murphy's out, but he's someone you could maybe consider as a value play. Pivot off some of that chalk. Did get 33 minutes last time out. Made five threes. I don't know if that's something we can count on for him, but when he's at his best, he is a shooter and he is draining those shots. So fine mixing him in. Herb Jones is going to get the start here. I think he's kind of priced where he should be, though. If there's anything from New Orleans, I'm not clamoring for. It's probably him. But yeah, man, with you on McCollum, I really like the Misi call. Definitely better than Capella, who's drawing more ownership, and then Murray, and then Hawkins off the bench. I think if Murphy's out. But anything else for New Orleans here before we move into the next game?
No, that's it for me.
Nice, dude. Make a pretty good time. Again, we got Smitty in Discord today. I'm trying to give him a few minutes back. Talking very fast, but that is intentional. I'm going to move into the next game here. We got my. No, not yet. No Nets yet. Injury report is in a different order. No, it is the Nets. Okay, we got the Brooklyn Nets taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Another spot where we're waiting on very important news. That's more so on the Milwaukee side. Giannis is questionable. Dame is questionable. I don't know if they've gone through shoot around, but they've been dealing with an illness. I don't know if they're actually sick or Doc's kind of rewarding them for the NBA Cup and for actually playing pretty well under him, and just letting these guys rest over the holidays. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is there right now. Obviously, if Giannis is in, he's a good play. If Dame is in, he's a pretty good play. If one is in, the other is out. They're one of your top pay ups on the entire slate. If they're both out, Bobby Portis becomes extremely appealing everywhere. We'd probably see Rollins get the start at point guard again. He'd be pretty interesting. And then Chris Middleton, the minutes haven't quite gone up over 24, but his price hasn't really gone up either. I think if Dame and or Giannis are in, you're not going to be playing Middleton. If both are out, you could get to some. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of if then here. If they're both out, Rollins will look good. We could probably get some Gary Trent. I don't know. Have you heard much from this situation today? Are they going to shoot around? I don't know. For me, I'm thinking they play, but at the same time, I don't know. It's tough to really say right now.
Yeah, I haven't really seen anything. I don't know. It's a pretty tough situation, and with it being in the last set of games, it makes it kind of difficult. I mean, you could prepare with Portis. I think is probably the safest route to go. Then you're leaving
Yeah.
yourself some salary. But if Dame or Giannis misses, like you said, the other one's going to look pretty appealing. So overall, it's kind of tough, but it makes or breaks the slate, really.
Yeah. And I mean, what other games do we have locking at 8? So I don't know. If say you put Giannis in your lineups and he's out, I mean, make sure you have him at utility. You can maybe go down to Dame if he's in, upgrade one of the Pelicans, like a Murphy up to a Murray or something like that, or a Misi up to a Sengun. Just make sure you kind of have a plan set, especially on DK. On FanDuel, you have the two 10 o'clock games, which kind of gives you more options. But if we don't get this news by 7, just make sure you have a plan B because this is going to change the slate dramatically either way. Right now, we are projecting them in, and like I said, I think Giannis is a good play if he's in. If they're both in, I'm still fine getting to some Giannis, but that would really be it for Milwaukee. Even in a pretty good matchup here against my Nets on the Brooklyn side of things, we have Bojan still out. Finney Smith is questionable. Ben Simmons is questionable. Cam Thomas still out. So if Simmons is in, I mean, he's been okay. I don't mind getting to him. Cam Johnson going to dominate the usage here. Needs that 3 to fall to look really good, but yeah, man, kind of a mess these Nets right now. But I don't know. I guess if Ben's out, maybe we have to take a look at someone like Shake Milton, which obviously doesn't feel great. Cam Johnson, the one play here I think you could trust in terms of floor. Um, Claxton's been playing pretty well, but kind of inconsistent minutes. Haven't seen him get over 30 since the last time he played Milwaukee on the 8th, interestingly enough. So maybe they need him more here if Giannis is in against their size. But yeah, even as a fan of this team, it's tough for me to sit here and say, oh yeah, these are the guys you should be on. I think if Clowney gets a spot start again for Finney Smith, he's an okay piece of value. He's pretty aggressive offensively. Got over 24% usage last game, but tough to sit here and really pump any of these plays in a pretty tough matchup against the Bucks. But are you on any Nets?
No, that's pretty much where I'm at too. I think they're all okay GPP plays, and then you can also it gives you more flexibility to swap to some Bucks if Giannis or Dame is out. But if Simmons plays, I like going there. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I will say this. So if you go to Portis, just make sure you use him at power forward, and maybe you have 400 left over. And if Giannis is in, you could very easily just pivot to Cam Johnson on the other side. Like that's another way to do it. But again, just make sure you have a plan in place because this is news that it is going to dramatically change the slate. Going to use that to kind of plug Smitty here. He's going to be in the Discord for however long I give him back after this. We still got a couple games to get through. Next, we got the Rockets and the Pelicans here. Did we talk through this yet? Yeah, we already did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the injury reports in a different order than the games I'm looking at. So the only 8 o'clock game we haven't gone through yet is Toronto and Memphis, I believe. On the Toronto side of things, no Jakob Poeltl, no Quickly, no Bruce Brown. Both Sheed and Walter are questionable. Um, so yeah, we had that day when Scotty Barnes was 3,500. That's long gone. Him and Barrett look fine as tournament plays. Kelly Olynyk's minutes have been, I think, slowly climbing. Let me just double check this. He's probably not going to get the start at center, but with Podol out, he's not a crazy tournament play. I think Mogbo's been a little bit of a disappointment, but he's cheap enough to use. I don't know, man. I'm looking at this team and like I don't mind getting up to Barrett or Barnes, but I think there's other plays in that range I prefer. And Dick Agbaji feel a little bit overpriced with this team getting a little bit healthier. But anything from Toronto for you?
No, that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm about with the field on Scotty on DraftKings. I think
Mhm.
he looks okay. He also hasn't looked 100%, so I don't love going over the field there, but this is a pretty good game environment, so I don't mind taking some shots.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think the better plays are probably on the Memphis side, but it is a game that seems like it could have some pace, could have some scoring. On the Memphis side, no Marcus Smart, no Vince Williams, no Gigi Jackson, no Jay Huff. John Morant is back. It's been a while since we've seen him get over 30 minutes consistently, though, but he's priced accordingly. Him, Jackson, Bain, to me, are all fine plays. Don't mind getting to some Zach Edey. But again, this team is healthier than they've been, so they're kind of priced where they should be. I like Morant. I like Jackson. I like Bain. I don't mind Edie, but again, it's going to be ownership more than anything to kind of see where I'm getting. And for whatever reason, Memphis, it's like they want to get this entire team minutes in every game. So we're not seeing guys getting over 30 consistently. So even in such a great game environment, it's tough to get there. But I will give the sites credit. They've kind of priced these guys down a little bit as a result of that. So instead of seeing 8K plus Jackson, he's in the 7K range. Bain just over 7K. Morant still sub 9K. I like that big three. I don't mind Edie, but where you at on Memphis?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm using Edie as a mainly a pivot to some Capella. I like getting
Mm,
overweight on Edie.
definitely.
And you mentioned all the ones I like. I like Jaw, and then I like Santi a little bit on DraftKings, 5,100 with power forward eligibility. I don't mind getting there, but like you said, it's just they're not going to play over 30 minutes, but their prices also reflect that. So I think they're still pretty good plays.
Yeah, totally with you, man. And again, I do think Edie's a better play than Capella, and you're getting lower owned on both sites. Again, my big stand today is not to be playing Clint Capella at crazy ownership. He just hasn't been doing it, even with a Kongu out. Okay, so we're through the DK games now. We got 2 games left. They're on FanDuel only. One spot here, though, is very important, so I want to make sure we get to it. The Utah Jazz are without Clarkson. They're without Collins. They're without Keontae George. And they are taking on the Blazers, who are just without nobody. They got Banton and Williams is questionable. I think we can talk about this game all at once. Obviously, the Utah side is the more appealing. Sexton, one of the best plays on the slate with those other 2 guards out. Laurie Markkinen, a little bit too cheap for what he's capable of. I always tend to come in under the field on Svi. We have him for 24 minutes. He's going to start. I don't think it's crazy to mix him in, but I really, really like Sexton. He's pretty much a lock on FanDuel. Like Kessler, really like Markkinen. Those are the 3 for me. I'll try to come in under on speed, but I get it, and then make a part of another play that I get for the value because the minutes are there. But I don't know. I'd rather just play the big 3 here. But where you at on Utah?
Yep, I'm pretty similar. I think they all look pretty good. They just have so many bodies out, typically, are and people that score. So I think pretty much all their starters, and then I do like Potter, power forward eligible. He looks pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's crazy on FanDuel, too, especially where you're kind of looking for that value. You do have those 2 power forward positions. Really got to make quick time. Anything on Portland you're liking? For me, there's not much, if I'm being honest.
No, they all look just like GPP plays.
Okay. And then we'll talk about this last game really quickly. We got the Pistons and the Kings. So bonus is questionable for the Kings. If he's out, that's going to be a big boost to the likes of, I don't know, DeRozan and Fox because they're going to see increased usage. Trey Lyles, if he starts, is probably someone you see get enough minutes to be appealing as value. Any thoughts on Sabonis? I tend to think he plays. I mean, Monk is another guy who's a little bit underpriced. But yeah, Kings. And then on the Pistons side, just for the sake of time, Stewart is the only guy questionable that really matters. They have pretty much everyone else otherwise. But yeah, Kings and Pistons. Obviously, the Sabonis news is kind of the big fulcrum there. But where are you at on this game?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure on Sabonis. I kind of I'm leaving him in. I expect him to probably play, but I think he's an okay GPP play. Malik Monk is probably my favorite for FanDuel. I think he looks pretty good. He's priced maybe a little too low, and then DeRozan at 7,100. You could always take shots.
Yep, they all look good. And I will say Cade is another pivot off of a chalky LaMelo ball if you're looking for it. He's obviously shown tremendous upside this season. But similar to the Honest news, really waiting on this Sabonis news. I'll take one last quick look at chat, guys. I'm not going to be able to bring every comment up on the channel. I'll do my best to kind of get through everything. Jose, our priorities at each position, we're going to kind of reveal here when we do our breakdown. Levine, same lineup as. White, yeah, definitely. You can play those guys together. Edie versus Toronto, for sure, unicorn. THT becomes great value, even though I think Phillips starts. Yeah, THT never starts. He probably never plays over 25 minutes, but they're going to need his scoring off the bench. Giannis and Lillard are out. Okay, that's big. So Portis becomes one of the best plays on the slate. If Rollins starts, he's a great guard value play. Gary Trent becomes appealing as well. And again, guys, I would love to throw this Smitty, bring it all up on the screen for the sake of time, just ripping through. Top play each position FanDuel. Again, it's kind of tough to do that right now, guys, but I do think Portis, Rollins become very appealing. I don't know. So let me refresh data once. We'll do a really quick dummy. And then, guys, if you are in Discord, Smitty's going to take you up until lock the next half hour. But obviously, this Milwaukee news is massive. DK main, FanDuel main. And yeah, Horton Tucker suddenly super chalky. I mean, I guess the thought is they really do need those minutes. 25 minutes. If I know he's going to play 25, I want him in my lineups for sure. But where we starting, man? I guess we got this Milwaukee news. It's probably Portis. I think
Uh,
you're on mute.
yeah,
Oh, you're good.
I think Portis is probably the key to the slate now.
Okay. Where else we going? Just feel free to throw some names out.
Oh, Rollins probably.
Yep, Rollins.
Oh,
Okay.
he
We're
kind of got
from
priced up.
Chicago. We taking that Horton Tucker chalk or um,
Yeah, we could.
yeah, I mean, at his price, what he does, I think it makes some sense. What else are we looking at? I mean, I love Hero. I really want to try to get him in if we can. Center, I think we both like Edie. The main thing is that we weren't getting to Capella. Um, I don't know. Do we want to go Edie? We also
Yeah,
got, yeah, Edie's
I'm cool
probably
with
good.
Edie.
We got Sar there. We got even Nance as a pivot off Capella, but I do think Edie is one of the better ones. Okay, we actually have some decent salary left. 3 spots to fill. Let me quickly check ownership. Make sure we're not missing anything too obvious. Yeah, I mean Kobe White, Trey Young, Levine, they're all popping. Um, who should we be prioritizing here?
That's tough.
I mean, I want Eamon Thompson, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Now we got 7,900 per. I mean, if we go with Levine, that's going to leave us with a true pay up or 8,700 in utility. I mean, it's not Zion. I mean, we could go Sengun, we could go Morant. I think we could go Vooch. I think this is a pretty good build to start, um, generally speaking, right?
yeah, I like it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll plug in Sengun for the sake of the video. And yeah, guys, again, I mean, we had a lot to get through today. Definitely appreciate you all tuning in. Shouts out Kenny Brayboy here. Awesome to see young man making it in the NBA. That is Queens. Went to high school with his parents. Yeah, agree, man. He's a good piece of value. We didn't get him into this dummy build here. I do think he makes a lot of sense, though. Again, a lot of value opening up. I'm still waiting on some bonus news. If you are on FanDuel, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I mean, just real quickly, guys. I know we had like 10 people asking our favorite plays at each position. I mean, I don't know. Give me one guard, one forward, one center. Somebody, I'll do the same.
I'll go with SGA. Let's see. That's tough. SGA, Bobby Portis, and Zach Edey.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably go with. Yeah, I gotta go SGA, Bobby Portis, and I'm pretty much the same. I'll go Sengun, just if you could find the salary for it. But yeah, again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Happy holidays to everyone. Really appreciate it. Smitty's about to jump off here and get right into Discord and take you guys up until lock. Hoping to see a lot of screenshots in there. As always, like the video, subscribe, check the links in the description below to become a part of the community. Other than that, just have a great evening. Good luck, everyone, and take care.